Hello, everyone. Um, Hope you all are doing well out there and having a good afternoon. Seems like it is a beautiful day today, so I hope that many of you might have the opportunity to take advantage of that. But for those of you who are watching my screen, that will show me your live comments in the moment. So feel free to reach out and let me know what you guys are thinking. Today, I wanted to get back to an old class that we used to do and haven't done for a little while. A subject that I very much enjoy. We're going to be doing a creative writing class today, and I have a few prompts for each of you if you would like to grab something to write with at home. I think for the purposes of this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out the three prompts that I have for today. And then I've already taken these prompts and written some short pieces myself. And so I'm going to read those to you guys today as well. So in order to be able to do these exercises, all you need is a writing implement and some paper and a willingness to be creative. So a little history for me. I first discovered creative writing and really got into it when I was in high school. And they had an elective class that was called Creative Writing 1 and Creative Writing 2. And I really enjoyed getting exposed to all different kinds of creative writing. And for me, it all started with poetry, and I started reading a lot of poetry and then writing my own poetry. And then I eventually graduated into short stories, and I really thought that I might start writing a lot more short stories in those days. And very late in the first part of Creative Writing 1 that I took in high school, we got an introduction to playwriting, which was sort of my first foray into trying to write a few scenes on my own. And then I had kind of a tough time for myself in high school, as many people do. And I kind of just holed myself up in my room, and I wrote my first play in high school. And I got to perform that with some of my friends. And I just really got the bug after that. And I've often wondered what came first, the words or the desire, but they all kind of started swirling around together for me in that time in my life. And from that moment, from when I was 16 years old, I've never stopped writing. And these days, most of my writing comes in the form of songwriting because I have a band and I like to generate new material for that project. But I very much enjoy getting back to writing poetry and writing short stories. And I even got a novel started somewhere in some desk drawer that will probably never see the light of day, but is a very good exercise if you want to go for something lengthier and long form writing. But today we are going to work on some very short writing prompts. Okay. So I like to use, there are a whole bunch of different prompts that you can discover on your own on the internet. But I really enjoy random words, random first lines, random plot ideas, or even, memories or dreams as good launching points for your first prompts. or not your first prompts, but they're a really good launch pad to get you started. Because often when any of us writers look at a blank page, it can be a little bit scary. And we're kind of left thinking, wow, I mean, I like to write. I think I have something to say, but I'm not sure. So a writing prompt it just helps you get started. And it is important to remember that there really are no rules when it comes to following writing prompts. Some of the best successes I've had in doing writings to prompts has been when I've broken those rules that the prompt may lay out. And really, it's about finding your own voice on the page. And so the first writing prompt that I did today was a random 5-word prompt. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read you guys these 5 words. And if you're following along in the moment, feel free to write them down. And if you're watching this later, get that pencil out and get ready to jot down a couple of words. Okay. So the first word is damp. D-A-M-P, damp. And feel free to use that word in any way that you think is creative. Okay, the next word in these 5 words is the word waist. W-A-I-S-T. So it's like a reference to your body part, the center of your body down here. Is your waist. But feel free to use that word creatively, because this is creative writing after all. The next word that we're going to have in our 5-word prompt is the word fallen. F-A-L-L-E-N. Fallen. There are lots of different ways to use that word. Okay, so feel free to use that creatively. The next word we have is dank. D-A-N-K. Dank is a very interesting word. It's a word that doesn't get used as frequently as some of those other words. But feel free to look up a definition of the word, or if you think you know what the word means. To me, when I think of dank, I think of sort of dark and damp kind of things. And our final word in this 5-word prompt is the word foreign. F-O-R-E-I-G-N. Foreign, which is, it can be a reference to anything outside of the country that you live in, but it also can be a reference to just anything that you're not particularly familiar with, or that feels like it's very far away from you, figuratively or literally. So to recap our 5-word prompt, they are, and I probably won't say these in the same order because I have them written in a circle. Damp, waste, fallen, dank, and foreign. And 5-word prompts are not generally meant to be used for a really, really long period of time. So I would recommend, about 1 to 3 minutes of writing. And a good thing to keep in mind when you are writing is I am always asking myself those big question words: who, what, when, where, and why. Okay, so if you're ever getting stuck on your writing, just ask yourself, who's involved? What's going on? When is this happening? Where is this happening? And why are people doing the things that they are doing? Or why are certain events happening? These are great, just great ways to check in with yourself as you're writing if you feel like you get stuck. And hopefully, if you do this enough, you'll start to develop your own flow, and you'll get stuck a lot less. So without further ado, I'm going to read you guys I think I've spent about 1.5 minutes on this little paragraph from our random 5 words: damp, waste, fallen, dank, and foreign. And I didn't use those words in that order in my story either. So anyway, this one turned out to be a little spooky. I don't know where that came from, but I'm not even sure where this story is going to go, should I choose to continue it. But I kind of enjoyed those words, and those words really brought out sort of a spooky vibe for me when I was first thinking about what to write. So anyway, here's my first little writing piece for the day. The grass was damp, and his footsteps were unsure. He had been here before, but this place seemed very foreign now. Although the drive had taken far longer than he had intended, somehow he was wide awake. He stumbled over a log of some tree that had fallen years ago, when all of a sudden, from the darkness before him, he smelled a dank swamp. It was very old and had long since been forgotten. He waded into the water, first his feet, then up to his waist, and finally the murky water rested just beneath his chin. All right, so there's our first little writing prompt piece. And I wanted to say, I hope you enjoyed that little bit of writing. Maybe it stirred some ideas for you. And if you would like, feel free to use that little writing piece as a springboard for yourself. If you don't have an idea about what to do with those 5 words right off the bat, feel free to try to continue that story and just see what happens for yourself. Like I said at the beginning of this, there really are no rules to creative writing. Okay, you guys? So that is our prompt number 1, of which there will be 3 today. Okay? So our next prompt is a memory prompt, which I always find kind of fun for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons is you're writing about a memory of yours. So this is a little bit more realistic, perhaps. This often contains, doing prompts like these contain characters that you know, which is kind of fun to write about people that you know. And I selected a prompt that was about a memory of a dinner. Okay, so I assume that all of us have dinner every night. And I'm sure that those dinners are very different sometimes. And so I selected a very special dinner not too long ago in my past that I had with my parents, with my stepfather and my mother, when they came to town to visit me. So this is another, I would recommend 1 to 3 minutes of writing on this prompt. And basically the whole prompt is just write about a memory of a dinner that you think would be interesting to write about. Okay? So without further ado, I'm going to read you guys my little story here about a memory of a dinner that is very fond to me because my parents took me out to a very nice place, and I felt special. So anyway, here is my dinner memory, 1 to 3 minute writing piece. Again, remember, if you get stuck at all, ask yourself those question words: who, what, when, where, why. Okay, and that can usually get you unstuck. Okay, so here we go. It's been a long time since I've been wined and dined so completely. A good steak was on my stepfather's mind. My mother wasn't sure at first, but rather easily conceded after the fine restaurant was suggested. Red leathered seats became the backdrop for our feast. It began with cocktails and salads and quickly escalated to entrees of marbled beef, suspiciously smooth potatoes, and rich sauces flanked by carefully steamed vegetables. The portions were very generous and quickly necessitated a calculation in one's head between completing the decadent meal or leaving an appropriate amount in one's stomach to allow for an over-the-top dessert. The leftovers would easily fill one's stomach tomorrow, and the dessert would need to be eaten. All right, so that's my next piece, prompt number 2, in which I wrote about a dinner memory of mine. All right, moving right along. I've got one more prompt for you guys today, and this one I took a little bit longer with. I like to kind of warm up myself with very short pieces. 1 to 3 minutes is a really, really comfortable amount of time to get something started, but you don't have to worry about finishing it, and you can kind of just explore where you're at in that particular day and everything. So this last prompt that I did was a random first line generated by a prompt on the internet. And the first line that I chose that just looked interesting to me was it a knock that had woken her? Okay, so it's a question. It's a pretty short sentence. And I was intrigued by it because the main character in my mind would be a woman. Which is, it's always interesting as a writer to try to write from the opposite gender. That's often a very, very good exercise because most men end up writing about male characters and most women end up writing about female characters. And it's really cool to switch it up, you guys, and try to write from the opposite gender. And I also thought there was a little, I was feeling a little bit suspenseful or suspicious from that very first prompt that came up. And so I thought it fit nicely in that mood. Sometimes you'll find some days you want to write, really action-packed, adventurous stories. Other days you want to write really contemplative, mindful stories. Other days you want to write, really, really silly stories. And today I was feeling the suspense. So I was trying to just honor my feelings. So I will repeat this first line for those of you following at home. Hey, Sam, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well out there and that you might be willing to take on a few of these writing prompts that I'm talking about today and try to do some writing at home for yourself. So this third prompt, this is number 3 for the day, is a random first line, and the line is, was it a knock that had woken her? Okay, with a question mark. All right, so I wrote on this particular prompt for 3 to 5 minutes, and I think I got almost a full page out of that amount of time. And try not to worry about too much about how much you write. What's important is that you just write and that you keep writing. And if you get stuck, just ask yourself those questions: who, what, when, where, why, and it should help you try to get unstuck. Okay, so here we go. Third piece of writing that I will share with you guys today, and I hope that you all will take some of these prompts and write something of your own. Okay? All right, here we go. Was it a knock that had woken her? Or perhaps the tapping of a branch on her window. Just then, a car door slammed shut on her block. Had another car door disturbed her slumber moments before? It's not like she woke in the middle of the night regularly. Tonight, something had woken her. She retrieved her robe and slippers at the foot of her bed and ventured out into the dark upstairs hallway. The air in the house was colder than it should be. She thought to herself, "Did I leave a window open before I went to bed?" As she rounded the corner at the top of the stairs, her stomach tied in knots when she saw that her front door was open. She immediately felt paralyzed. Do I go back to my room? Or do I at least close the front door before I call the cops? She asked herself in the deafening silence. Instead, she waited and listened very closely for what felt like a lifetime. No sounds were heard. Okay, so where's that going? Who knows? Maybe you guys can write some interesting endings to these stories. If you don't have ideas to get something else started on your own, feel free to take any one of these three prompts and try to finish it out in your own way. I would love to hear what you guys come up with. So for this first creative writing class, this is a little bit different than the way we used to run classes in person, because I would normally give you that time to write when the prompts are discussed, and then we would all go around and share what we've written, and then we would talk about parts of stories that we really like. So unfortunately, in this fashion, that's a little trickier to do. So I will take the time whenever I'm doing these classes to write out my own selections of writing based on whatever prompts I come up with for the day, to share with you guys so that you may get some ideas. Or maybe, you can use my beginnings of stories as a launch pad to write your own, or not. Whatever you guys want to do. Like I said, there really are no rules when it comes to creative writing, similar to rock and roll, for those of you who tuned in for my rock and roll video. So finally, I wanted to share a piece of writing that was shared with me when I was very, very young and really getting in to creative writing. And I'm not going to share what book this is from, because I don't know if there's going to be copyright business that would prevent this video from being seen. So I will just preface this by saying I'm going to share a very, very short piece of writing where a younger writer has reached out to an older writer, and they are asking that writer for some feedback on their writing. And I think that the response from the older writer is particularly poetic and very, very interesting. And I wanted to share this with you. This is from a letter that was written in Paris in February 17th in 1903, well over 100 years ago. Okay, so I will share this with you, and I will bid you all adieu. I hope you are well and you're staying safe. Okay, here we go. One writer's advice to another writer about writing and about seeking advice for your writing. I know of no other advice than this. Go within and scale the depths of your being, from which your very life springs forth. Your letter reached me a few days ago. I wanted to thank you for the deep and loving trust it revealed. I can do no more. I cannot comment on the style of your verses. Critical intent is too far removed from my nature. There is nothing that manages to influence a work of art less than critical words. They always result in more or less unfortunate misunderstandings. Things are not as easily understood nor as expressible as people usually would like us to believe. Most happenings are beyond expression. They exist where a word has never intruded. Even more inexpressible are works of art. Mysterious entities they are, whose lives, compared to our fleeting ones, endure. There is only one way. Go within. Search for the cause. Find the impetus that bids you to write. Then draw near to nature. Pretend you are the very first man or woman, and then write what you see and experience, what you love and what you lose. It requires great, fully ripened power to produce something personal, something unique, when there are so many good and sometimes even brilliant renditions in great numbers. Beware of general themes. Cling to those that your everyday life offers you. Write about your sorrows, your wishes, your passing thoughts, your belief in anything beautiful. Describe all that with fervent, quiet, and humble sincerity. In order to express yourself, use things in your surroundings, the scenes of your dreams, and the subjects of your memory. Anyway, I hope that you guys find some inspiration in the words that I am sharing with you guys today about creative writing. And it is a very, very enjoyable hobby to have, and I recommend it to every single one of you. Take a moment and just write down some of your thoughts and enjoy yourselves. Okay, you guys? I hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and I will be back with another video with you all tomorrow. And feel free to write comments even after videos are live. We can still see comments and stuff like that. I would love to hear from you all and hear how you guys are doing. And I hope that you're well, and I hope that you're safe, and I hope that you're healthy. Okay. Have a great afternoon, everyone.